Welcome to the Pockets of Knowledge podcast. I'm your host, Desiree Stanley, here to share some amazing conversations. We're talking business, health, making and saving money, or starting something epic. Think of this as your go-to spot for stories that do a lot more than just kill time. They spark ideas, give you a boost, and perhaps even change the way you look at the world. I'm pulling in the experts, the thinkers, the doers, and the dreamers. We're about to dive into stories that open doors and ideas that light up your brain. Here we go. Welcome, everyone, to the Pockets of Knowledge podcast. I'm your host, Desiree Stanley, and with me today is my guest, Angela Beyer. How are you today, Angela?
I'm doing very well. Thank you for asking.
Wonderful. I am honored to have you on the show and excited for our conversation today. And I can't wait for the listeners to hear your journey, your story, and how you founded House of Shape and became a fitness coach and trainer. So why don't you start with that, if you would? Tell us how this kind of came to be for you.
Yeah, I didn't plan it. I actually have a finance degree and I was a banker in Germany. What happened though, and I think a lot of people can relate to this, I was always an athletic teenager, very skinny, got to college, got more sedentary, and gained a lot of weight, was very unhappy. And for me, back in the days, I have to admit it, it was a lot of vanity, how to look and how like people would perceive me and relationship. Like I put myself under a lot of pressure and with gaining the weight, to be honest with you, the only goal I had at that time was to be skinny. And I did every crazy diet on this planet. I mean, you name it, I did it. I overexercised again, not knowing what I was doing, and I got into major health issues. I struggled, I felt defeated. I had the yo effect going on all the time. I gained it back, I lost it, gained it was a battle. And I developed actually like a very unhealthy relationship with food as well, because I almost hated food. I wanted to eat it. I couldn't eat it. I had always conversations and it was terrible. But then I hit basically a wall, ended up in the hospital with major health issues. And then I needed to put a hard stop on all this craziness. And I broke up with my boyfriend. I quit my job. I did something really extreme, but I needed a break and heal. And I decided to go to the United States to learn English. In the time in Germany, when I did all this trial and error with my dieting, I got a nutrition degree and I got into working out. Didn't really work that well. Like I said, I ended up in the hospital with really major health issues. So this was my healing period. And it was a 3 months course, English as a second language. And I thought like I will go back to Germany and continue. But I fell in love with the country and I really wanted to stay. And what happened was after the course, I stopped at a bank because that was my job. I did what I was feeling comfortable with, not being my authentic self. So I applied at a bank for an internship, got the job, was an intern at a bank. And yeah, like I said, I loved the country. But again, I was not in a job where I was supposed to be. And I remember the conversation with my immigration lawyer because I wanted to get a work visa. I wanted to get established, do it the right way. And she said to me, there is no way as a banker that I would get a work permit or a green card because there's so many bankers in the United States and I don't have any special skills. So there's no way I can stay. And I said, well, I don't have special skills in banking, but I can lift things up and put them down really well. I'm really good at bodybuilding. She's okay. If you're that good, if you can get a world champion title for the United States, you get a green card. And I thought at the beginning she was joking. I'm like, okay, the only thing I can do at this point, I can try. I had nothing to lose. So I cleaned up my diet. I got my old journals out. I dialed my workout in. I really was in this tunnel vision of focusing for the first competition, which was Miss Florida in natural bodybuilding. And I competed in the physique class. And this is the thing. When you do what you're supposed to do, and if you live your authentic life, all of a sudden everything is in a flow. and everything just worked out perfectly. My body was responding, my diet was working, my workouts were good. And oh my God, it was like one of the happiest times in my life. So I did the Miss Florida show. One Miss Florida got qualified for Team USA, one Miss USA. I mean, I fast forward everything. It was quite a journey and intense work. But like I said, it was fun. And then I was able to represent the United States at the Miss Universe show after winning Miss USA. So here I am at the Miss Universe show representing the United States. And all I wanted was to actually be in the top final. Like, oh my God, top five, that would be amazing. It was a crazy show, huge. And yeah, when I stood there and they announced I made it to the finals and they announced the fifth place, fourth place, third place. I'm still standing. I'm like, oh my gosh, top three. Can't even believe it. Well, third place, second place. And you can actually see me checking my number on the bikini. Oh my God, I won Miss Universe. I could not believe it. So that's how I got my green card. And then I said, okay, it's time to stop banking, to stop living a life you're not supposed to live. And I got into personal training first. So I started from the ground up training a lot of clients. And when I started training clients, I saw that there has to be a bigger picture. It's not only the workout, it has to be a lifestyle change. There has to be an adjustment in nutrition to see real results and sustainable results. So I got a health coach degree and I always built up my education. And with that, I started my company, House of Shape. And now I coach mostly women to get in the right size body and, yeah, achieve health.
Oh, Angela, thank you so much for sharing that with us. What an amazing journey, really, truly. And I think you shared so much in there that I think the listeners can relate to. Many of us have done that yo-yo dieting. I think that that's across the board. So many women have experienced that because we want to get to a certain weight, right? And so we're going to try whatever we think is going to be the thing that gets us there. But what you discovered is that when you got your nutrition right, when you got your workout right, and you had a goal, it all fell into place and came to be. And so, congratulations on winning tremendous. I mean, those are great achievements. I think that really congratulations for that. But, something that you said also in there about where you were meant to be. I think this is such a great thing. A lot of us just keep doing the same thing we know how to do instead of taking a leap and trying something that we're not sure it's going to work, but ultimately is where we need to be. And so I think that's fabulous. So thank you for sharing that portion of your story and how it really just brought all of this stuff together for you. And now look at what you've accomplished. And so tremendous. Congratulations. Can we talk a little bit about resilience? Because I think this plays a big part in how we ultimately get to the goals that we want to achieve because we have setbacks, right? There's things in our life that come up, and we need to have that resilience to ultimately get there. So maybe share with us mindset or tips that you have for resilience with the listeners.
Oh, good question. Resilience. Yeah. I think what gave me a hard time at the beginning when I did all those extreme diets, I wanted quick results. And we have to understand that our bodies always respond to everything we put in our mouth and how active we are. And if you don't see results, then it's most of the time that the tool you're using to measure the results is not as fine tuned as it should be or accurate because the body does do the work. And so many times, and not everybody's the same as well. It's so much about individuality and be gentle and understand that there is a process. And if you go on the journey to be healthy and you want to maintain that, you have to create habits and tools in your life what make you do this every day. So it's consistency as well. And well, when I set goals, usually It's funny. When I talk with clients about where the journey is going to be and where we want to end up, and I describe it, it's usually a straight line. So it's A, B, C, D, it's that straight line. And even when I speak about those goals, I know exactly how this is going to go. We will have detours, we will have stop signs, we will go into the ditch. And if you have a good support system, you are way stronger. And don't shy away to be open and communicate that you need help and support. And that is such a important part of my business as well, because I can always dial you back on the road to success. And there are those up and downs that it's okay to actually say that, and we'll just check it. And tomorrow is a new day and we repeat and continue. And it's never a straight line. It's always like those up and downs, and that's okay. And when I was like prepping for those shows, for example, another thing was when I thought about the competitions, it was actually kind of intimidating and scary. But what I did was I just looked at that day, today. I just looked at one day. Well, I don't even know how many days of dieting I did. But what I did was I told myself, okay, I can do today. I can do today. I will eat clean. I will do my workouts. I will do whatever I can today to get to that goal. And what I do tomorrow, I don't even want to think about it. And if I decide tomorrow to eat a pizza or whatever, what is not on my diet, well, guess what? Tomorrow never came because I woke up and it was today again. And today, this one day, I can do a diet and one day at a time. And then it developed like it was a string of successful todays. And all of a sudden, I did the whole time and it was not a problem. So I had smaller goals and kept going. I didn't look at the top of the mountain, so to speak. And I just kept grinding day by day.
Yeah, Angela, that's such a great point. We, I can't tell you how many other guests I've had who've shared the importance of just looking at like what you're doing right now and the choices that you're making right now, this moment, today. And so thank you for that reminder. We don't need to think about tomorrow or next week or next month or whatever, a year from now. We just need to make decisions and choices for today. And so it's a fantastic reminder, I think, for all of us. So thank you for that. Can we talk a little bit about how empowering women and like in the fitness industry, how important it is because it can seem very superficial. And you had described initially about it was just looking thin, right? And a lot of us feel like I just want to be thin, but it's really more than that. And it should be more than that, right? And so let's talk about how when we are physically active and I definitely want to talk about lifting weights and how important that is, but how that changes how we feel inside and our confidence and all of that. So take it away.
Oh, yeah. Actually, I just had a client who got measured on Friday and she did a DEXA scan. And that's the most accurate form of measurement, what is, yeah, on the market right now. So it measures your body fat percentage, your visceral fat, your body fat, bone density. You get all of it. And I remember when I met her the first time, and that was actually 10 years ago, a long time. We worked a long time together. We had a pregnancy in between and our up and downs. But she was this young woman, actually obese. She's not tall and she weighed, I don't even remember exactly, but over 150 pounds. And for her, it was big. She's tiny, a tiny body person. And she had no self-esteem and she was actually shy or scared to apply for a job because she didn't feel that she could handle it or that she could do it or that she would even get the job. And that was heartbreaking. She had, of course, no friends. It was interesting to see how it actually held her back in just being herself and enjoying life and having the self-esteem to actually go out and have a conversation. She was literally hiding. And when we started, she went on the weight loss journey and we did it in a gentle way. And step by step, you actually saw how she built up her self-esteem and she was able to connect and go out and got her job and actually her dream job. And now she is a successful realtor and she stays in shape. She knows how to do it and she enjoys a food freedom and a freedom in general, which is just wonderful to watch. Yeah.
Oh, that's awesome. Thank you for sharing that story. It's wonderful to hear when people are able to kind of grow out of a shell that they've sort of developed
Yeah.
because of maybe being overweight, or as you shared, she was significantly overweight, and how that really plays into what we think we can do with our lives, right? And the change that can happen when we begin to take control of what
Mhm.
we're feeding our bodies and that the work that we're doing with our bodies physically. And so that's awesome. Thank you for sharing that. So let's talk a little bit now about how important lifting weights is for women and kind of the myth, because a lot of women are like, I don't want to get really big. I don't want to have big muscles. You're like, I don't want to look like that. But, that's a myth that we hear a lot,
Yeah.
right? We don't have to be all big and muscly. So talk to us about that.
Oh, yeah. Oh, wonderful question. What happens right now is that we are so focused on the scale and so focused on numbers. And what I do with my clients is we are focusing on healthy muscle tissue. And why is that? And I'm not talking about bulky or a lot of muscle. I talk about healthy muscle tissue. Now, it's just look at the metabolism. So, what does the muscle do and why it is so important? The muscle is your glucose sponge. What does this mean? Okay. So, just say you eat carbs, you digest them, they go into your bloodstream. So, we have a high blood sugar level. The pancreas gets the signal to produce insulin. So, that's what happens. Insulin is the key to open up the cells, mostly of the muscle, and to get the sugar out of the bloodstream into the cell. Okay. Now, if we don't have enough muscle or if we don't have enough tissue, healthy tissue to actually get the carbs out, the carbs stay in our bloodstream. They go back to the liver. There they spill over and we create visceral fat. And that's the belly fat. So most of the time, or I see a lot of women who are insulin resistant, and it's not because like they're so focused on eating carbs and no carbs and go all crazy. But how about actually training the muscle and having healthy muscle tissue to be able to get the carbs out of the bloodstream? That's the problem. The sugar can't go anywhere. So this is huge. The muscle is a regulator of your metabolism. The healthier and the better your muscle is, the better your metabolism is going to be. Same thing with your hormones. The muscle communicates with your endocrine system. So endocrine systems, we have a ton of systems in our body. And if one system fails, all the others struggle and fail as well. So that's why muscle is the key. That's the foundation. So if we have healthy muscle tissue, it communicates with your endocrine system. So meaning stress hormones get regulated, thyroid hormone gets regulated. We talked about the insulin like hormone gets regulated. Interestingly, sex hormones get regulated. So women in menopause have an easier time if they have healthy muscle tissue and if they exercise on a regular basis. So there is so much going on for your hormones as well. The other thing too, we have to carry the muscle, and muscle is actually not that light. When you think about it, just to compare it, a pound of body fat is the size of a basketball, and the size of a pound of muscle is the size of my fist. Just by weighing the same, and you have a fit person and an unfit person, basically, or not exercising person, they look completely different, but they weigh the same. So it's huge. So when you have healthy muscle and it's kind of heavy, well, your bones have to keep up as well. So you create bone density. So it's such a good prevention for osteoporosis, and it goes hand in hand. Like this is another benefit. And then we talked about self-esteem and mindset. Like you are just more resilient because every day you do something hard. When you do exercise, you do hard things. And that's such a good training for daily stresses we have to deal with. And we deal with them way easier if we are used to deal with hard stuff. So that will help you as well. And then it improves cognitive function. It goes together too. And I have clients, to be honest with you, they have to work out in the morning so they are actually awake and they can think. And it's a funny thing when you take a break and just take a walk and walk it off, you are more productive afterwards. So there you can actually see how fast you can see results in that regard. So yeah, the key is the healthy muscle for so many other things. And when you're active, what happens too is you get the ideal body composition. You will get rid of the body fat as well when you follow a certain, like I said, routine. Yeah.
Angela, thank you so much for all that detail. I think I had no idea the impact that the muscle had on all of those systems. So that was education for me. And I hope for the listeners as well, they learned something because that was fantastic. And so let's talk about this idea of building healthy muscle and what we should be considering doing in order to do that, build healthy muscle.
Okay, so it's, yeah, for everybody different. And the wonderful thing is, so what you do is you have to establish a foundation. So if somebody never worked out, maybe their own body weight is already heavy. So what you want is resistance. So you feel resistance doing the exercise. And then the next important thing is progressive in resistance. So you have to improve all the time. Don't stay, and it's so funny. I have clients, they stay with their 5 pound weights and they don't want to grab heavier weights. And then the other day I had a client, I said to her, well, you have your child at home, right? She's like, yeah. I said, do you lift your child up? Of course I do. I said, well, how heavy is your child? She's like 35 pounds. I said, okay. I think it's time to go heavier than 5 pound dumbbells. And then it clicked with her. But it's so funny how women think the small weights are enough. They're not. So you need to challenge yourself. But first, you need to establish a good form. There has to be a muscle mind connection. So you have to train and understand what muscle you're using in the exercise. And then you go and get heavier and challenge yourself. A challenge could be to just increase the repetition. It doesn't have to be heavy, heavy weight. It can be, yeah, longer duration. You just add more exercises. So this is the fun part. You can really play and keep it like a space where you enjoy. So there is not really a ground rule. I can get results at any, like at any workout style. It's just that I have to see the person and dial it in and we can play. And you don't have to be at a gym. You can work out at home. If you like the machines and you like the gym environment, go ahead and do that. But there is so much, there's so many options. It's really a playground. The important thing is that you put it in action and that you're consistent. So if you can, and if that's it, like 10 minutes a day, start with 10 minutes a day. And then next week you do 15 minutes and then you work your way up. You know what I'm saying? So you just have to, again, give yourself time and experiment and see what feels good. And I see when you see the results, you actually get hooked. You want to continue and get better and better. So it's just don't overstress the system. And this is another thing, what I think is very interesting, especially women in menopause. I see them, how they beat themselves up in spin class and Orange Theory and I don't even like you call it, you name it, they do it. And then very harsh diets, very restrictive. And the body is so stressed that they can't see results and they're stuck. And this is such a huge problem because they're literally overtrained and their adrenals are exhausted and they're overstressed. And when they stress about this, that they're not seeing results, it doesn't even move, like, forget it. I mean, there is so many things. So if you take it easy and give yourself a break and see what your body can handle and be in a space where you feel comfortable with the challenge, way better results, way better.
Great stuff, Angela, for sure. It's such a great reminder. We just need to do a little bit more than we're doing right now to get started. If we're not doing anything, just a little bit more today. We don't have to go 1,000 miles an hour from the gate. In fact, we're going to probably injure ourselves if we do that. So just looking at where we are today and adding a little bit more, if it's a little bit more weight or a little bit more time. But the point about lifting your child and thinking about that weight versus the dumbbell weight, I think what a great visual, because you're just thinking, oh, these 5 or 10 pounds is fine. But when you look at what's in the real world, what you're
Right?
lifting is so much heavier than that. You are capable of lifting heavier weights, right?
Yeah.
And so you're going to see better results when you do that. Great, great visual there. And again, the idea that you just need to do a little bit more today than you did yesterday and just keep it going a little bit more every day. And thank you so much for talking about women in menopause and the stress that we put ourselves through worrying about the weight gain, and because our hormones are changing, right? And we've got to remember to be gentle with ourselves as we're going through this process and not be beating ourselves up for not seeing results and then trying to run harder, or like you talked about orange theory, and you're just killing yourself in these workouts and not seeing results, but you're stressing your body out even more, which is going to backtrack any kind of
Yeah.
progress you want.
Yes. It's interesting too. Women tend, and I don't know why they do, but the older they get, the more they reduce their protein intake.
Mhm.
And that's actually the opposite what they should do. And I see really good results with women in menopause when they have just a little bit of whey protein isolate before a workout. And all those women in general want to work out fasted. What is it with the not eating and want to work out? And that's such a general myth that they have to do this. And the protein intake right before a workout, and I'm not talking about a meal, I'm talking about a protein shake with an isolate, a very light protein, for example. It just helps to reduce the oxidative stress during the workout. So it gives women in menopause better success of building the muscle and getting the hormones in check because you're not stressing the system during the workout too much, just with having a little bit of buffer of the protein right before a workout. So yeah, fasten. I mean, if you like it, go ahead. If you see success and you like it, fine. But if you struggle, it's funny, you have to add a shake in, which doesn't sound like, wait a minute, I want to lose the weight. I don't want to add food, but it really does help to actually get the stress level down.
Good stuff. Thank you for sharing that, because I think you're right. I know even for myself, because I'm working out first thing in the morning, I'm not necessarily thinking like I want to be eating something. But thank you for that point, because many of us don't know that we need to have that protein ahead of doing a workout and the increased results and benefit we're going to see in our muscle response because we do that. So good stuff. Let's talk a little bit about how this can really feel like an uphill battle for many of us. And what perhaps, and maybe you can share if you've had clients who've plateaued and where they maybe made some adjustments or changes that help them go from that plateau state to the next level that the listeners might be able to interpret for their life.
Yeah, I have clients. It's interesting. There are two types. One, they battle with cravings and they want their sugar, and they're good for a certain period of time, and then they fall off and then they go on a binge, or it goes like the all or nothing. Oh, I messed it up and now it doesn't matter. And off they go a whole weekend going crazy. And then I have others who just, yeah, get stuck in a certain routine and don't want to change. So they're like doing the same thing and want a different result. And it's interesting because what it is with training and dieting, it's a dance because we change all the time. The diet, what worked for you in your 20s, doesn't work in your 30s, doesn't work in your 40s. So we always have to make adjustments. And a good thing is, and I always like to journal, to write it down. And so you actually know what's going on. And if I can see it written down, By the way, I think it's super interesting. If you don't write down what you're eating, you always underestimate about 30% of your food intake. It's interesting. When you start writing it down, you're way more aware of it. Just a little side note. But yeah, so what I do with overcoming a plateau, I look at the diet because you can't out exercise a bad diet. So we have to look at this. And like I said, protein is major. And we don't understand how important it really is because without the right fuel, you can't build any muscle or maintain it. And the interesting part is you have to have a robust amount of protein. And most of the time, we are not eating enough of it. So we are not triggering muscle protein synthesis. So it's about, for women, 25 to 30 grams in a meal. And yeah, it's a robust amount. It's a good amount of protein. And so if I have somebody who struggles with always going back to the sugar, always make sure you eat the protein first, because this is another big topic with Ozempic and all those things, what's going on. Protein just helps you to release more GLP-1. So it's very satisfying. You don't feel as hungry. So if you have protein first in your meal, it helps you to actually feel fuller. And when you digest protein, you have thermogenesis. So the body needs 25 to 30% of the protein to actually digest it. So you have a thermogenic effect. So that will help you to overcome a plateau just by changing the ratio of your protein, carb, and fat intake. So this is just an example. But like I said, it's very individual. And like I said, when you have one workout plan, what works for you all this time, how about we do another one and just change it up? And you would be surprised. To be honest with you, I like total body workout for most women just to get it going. And back in the days, we broke it down in muscle groups and we did like a push pull day and then a leg day. And well, how about we do total body and see how that goes? Like I said, changing it up, you have to make a change to overcome a plateau. If you keep doing the same thing, you won't change.
Yes. Oh my gosh, Angela, so much great information in there. Thank you. And yeah, it totally reminded me of you're doing the same thing, you're going to get the same results. Unless you change what you're doing, you're not going to get different results. And it made me think about that term muscle memory and what happens. Like our muscle gets used to what we're doing, so it's not going to make any difference if you keep doing
Oh,
that same thing. The muscle's like, yeah, I've done this already. I know how to
it's
do this, no problem. So until you start doing something different, then the muscle goes, oh, I got to try something different now. I got to work a little bit harder maybe today. And so that's when you start to see results, right?
Yeah, you always want to recruit new muscle fiber. That's why, for example, we do 3 sets. The first set is usually the muscle fiber, which is already there and strong. Second round, we recruit more muscle fiber. In the third round, we recruit even more muscle fiber. You know what I'm saying? And that's just an example. Again, changing the duration, just add a little bit more. Do a fourth set. If you use 2, 3, do 4. And that gives you another edge. Yeah, absolutely right.
Yeah. And I like the idea of total body workout and maybe incorporating that on one of the days. If you do upper body, lower body, then do total body. It's like you're constantly changing it up so that your body is constantly guessing what's coming
Yes.
next. And this is such a great way to live because every day we're out and about doing stuff and we have to be reactive. Our body has to be able to manage these different tasks that we're doing. And when you have these kind of workouts, it mimics everyday life and makes that easier.
Yeah, it's about being functional. And isn't that the whole goal? I mean, I think it's interesting too. We talk so much nowadays about lifespan and we want to live longer. And there is this big biohacking movement, which is very interesting as well. But for me, it's very important to look at the health span. We want to live a long, healthy life, not just a long life. And interestingly, in the United States right now, the average lifespan is 79 years. The average health span is 63. So there are 16 years basically of a suffering, unhealthy life. And this is what I don't want, and I don't want this for any of my clients. I want them to be healthy as long as they can and functional, independent, being able to go shopping, to travel, to do all those things they want to do, play with the grandkids, golfing, whatever it is. And don't limit yourself because you just didn't take care of yourself. And I mean, it's so bizarre because people don't want to spend money on health. And then when they get older and are sick and unhealthy, they spend all the money on medication and doctors and suffer along the way. It's an interesting mindset. It's changing now, and it's wonderful to see. Yeah.
No, you made such a good point in there. And especially because they don't, many people are retiring at 65 or 70 years old. And then you've got what, only 9 years to live after retirement. And most people don't want to just like work all these years and then just slowly decline and die. What's the point of that? That's not no life. And so taking care of ourselves now means better quality of life later. And I think that's such a great reminder, and not being sedentary and the decline that rapidly occurs when we just sit down and stop moving, right?
Absolutely. Oh, yeah. And like I said, just take a walk. I mean, literally, like after every meal, just make it a habit and take a walk. Huge.
Yeah, and that's such an easy thing to do, right? I mean, we're not talking about a 5-mile hike or something. It's just after your dinner or whatever, take a walk around your neighborhood and come back and enjoy the rest of your evening, right? So I think that's something that many of us can easily add into our routines. I want to touch really quickly on what you mentioned in there also about Ozempic and like all of these sort of drugs that we're seeing a lot of today that are being used not necessarily for their intended purpose, and how we can really mimic that in the right eating and the workouts that we're doing, right? Because you shared a little of that. So maybe dive in a little bit more on that if you would.
Oh, yeah. Ozempic is a GLP-1 agonist. So it mimics GLP-1, which is a hormone, what makes you feel fuller, reduces cravings. So there are receptors, for example, in the brain, what reacts to GLP-1 and it stops any cravings. It slows down the emptying of the stomach and it regulates the blood sugar level or the insulin production. So that's what it does. Now, how can I say this? I always say the alligator closest to the boat needs to be shot first. So if I have somebody who is morbidly obese, and this can be the cause of death, which we know it does. This person, if the only chance is to lose the weight Ozempic, yes, go for it because it will help you to get to that healthy state. Now, during that time, because cravings and hunger and all that is shut down, I use that time with clients to actually establish healthy habits to help that person to create a lifestyle what they can maintain. And when they lost the weight, that they can just continue because the habits are already established. So this is a great time for people who really suffer with sugar addiction stuff when this is all shut down to get on a healthy diet plan. That's the easiest way. Now, if we talk about a person who wants to get ready for a party and needs to lose 3 or 4 pounds, no, you don't take Ozempic. So there is a difference. Now, how can I use natural things instead of Ozempic? So one, I already mentioned, that's the protein. So protein first, that will help you. And then another big thing is fiber. So what happens if you eat fiber? And unfortunately, we don't eat enough fiber, but make it a point. So there is soluble and insoluble fiber. The soluble fiber binds with water. So a good example for that is, for example, the konjac root or glucomannan. You can buy it as a supplement. In the Asian kitchen, they use it as a binder. So if you mix it with water, it gets like a gel. Okay. So if you use that, and for example, you can buy it as a supplement before, and you use it before a meal, it fills up your stomach, and that every fiber does that. So the emptying of the stomach is slowed down, and then it goes into your intestines. The fiber is a prebiotic. It helps your colon flora. So it feeds the good bacteria. Then that's helpful. And the fiber is like a broomstick. and it slows down basically the absorption of the carbs so you don't have a sugar spike. It buffers it. So same kind of concept. What will help you? So fiber is huge. Another natural thing, and this is very easy to do as well, is apple cider vinegar. Apple cider vinegar slows down the emptying of the stomach. So if you have a little salad right before your main meal with apple cider vinegar and olive oil or something, you're already helping to slow down slowing down the emptying of the stomach. You can't drink it, but please dilute it in water. Don't take straight up they go like, whatever she said on the podcast, drink apple cider vinegar, and then they write straight out of the bottle. No, dilute it first in water, but you can drink it as well. So this is like a really nice thing to cut down hunger as well, because it slows down the emptying of the stomach. Yeah, and of course, exercise. For sure.
Good tips, Angela. Thank you for sharing those. And the reminder again, how important protein is. And I think we all recognize that fiber has always been shared as so important in our diet. And so great reminder there. And I love the idea that you shared about this, like a small salad with the apple cider vinegar. So you're getting a couple of things there, right? We all need leafy greens in our diet, more leafy greens and the apple cider vinegar. So that's nothing but good stuff for you there. So great points. Thank you for sharing that. And of course, the exercise. So it's always imperative. Well, Angela, this has been fantastic information. Thank you so much. I always love to have my guests share if there's books that have been beneficial or influential or podcasts that they think that the listeners should check out. Is there any that you'd like to share with us?
I actually, Dr. Peter Attia's book, Outlive, he talks about health span. It's a really good book. I loved reading that. I like Dr. Gabrielle Lyon's book, Strong. She is a muscle-centric doctor here in the United States. And podcast. I like science-based podcasts. The Huberman Lab is fantastic. Dr. Peter Attia's podcast. I like Dr. Stephanie Estema. She has a really nice concept about how we should eat and exercise according to our cycle. Her podcast is all about that, about hormones, hormone replacement. So yeah, it's all science-based.
Those are great recommendations, though, for sure. So I will detail that information in the show notes for the listeners to easily find, because I think it's a good idea, that we educate ourselves as much as we possibly can on what's happening with our body and how do we optimize our health and fitness and everything that we're doing to have that health span, which I love that you shared. So thank you so much for that. Well, Angela, lastly, before we close out the show, would you please share with the listeners how they can find you if they want to get more information, follow along on your journey? Where would they be able to do that?
Thank you for asking. Yeah, at houseofshape.com. That's my website. And my social media handle is Health Coach Angela. Very easy.
Yeah, perfect. And I'll detail that in the show notes as well. Angela, again, thank you so much for coming on the show and sharing this amazing information with us. And I so appreciate your time. Thank you.
Thank you for having me. My pleasure.
Wonderful. We'll talk more soon.
Thank you, dear listeners, for tuning in to another insightful episode of the Pockets of Knowledge podcast. We appreciate your time and curiosity as we explore fascinating topics together. If you enjoyed today's discussion, be sure to join us next week for another amazing episode. Remember, your journey of learning and growth is a continuous adventure, and we're thrilled to be part of it. Don't forget to subscribe so you never miss an episode. Until next week, stay curious and keep exploring those pockets of knowledge.